the author, Dawn French, who is going to be presenting to us on the series called Peanut. I don't want to go deep into it because she is the one who's going to be presenting on the particular story of Peanut's family tree. And before we go to Dawn, I want to remind uh, those who are joining us from the capitals, the various capitals of the St. Lucia diaspora. We want to inform you we have online Mrs. Cynthia Dahlia in Barbados, Mr. Aaron Francis in the British Virgin Islands, Mr. Ross Cadas in Canada, Mr. Sonny William Sonny in French Guiana, Mrs. Felicia Hippolyte in the United Kingdom, Mr. Cornelius Alfred in Atlanta, Georgia, Mrs. Petra Poloin in Barbados, Mrs. Uhana Obaizamon One in Canada, and Dr. Morgan Dalfinis in London, among others. We thank you for holding on. We ask you to bear patience with us. You will be on. We will start bringing you on within the next few minutes, but we have to do some programs in between to keep you up to date to what we in the National Preparatory Committee, the various stakeholder entities that are working with the National Reparations Committee, whether as individuals or entities, they are with us, the UWI Open Campus teams in St. Lucia and abroad. We have also the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, the Dame Paulette Louise's committee, the Nobel Laureates Festival Committee, the Archaeological and Historical Society, the National Youth Council, the Monsignor Patrick Anthony Folk Research Center, and many others, as well as and including the Ayanola Council for Advancement of Rastafari, also the Caribbean uh, Rastafari Organization, also represented on our committee, and very importantly, is the Ministry of Education, which is assisting in our hosting of a series of lectures. We have national lectures and regional lectures. I'll bring you up to date with all of that a little later, but like I said, the Ministry of Education is represented on our committee by the Chief Education Officer. So without further ado, let's join Dawn French, the author, with her presentation on Peanuts family tree and the entire Peanut series, which, believe me, she's written more than many authors. Dawn, over to you.
Thank you. Let me see if I can share my screen.
Yep.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let me put it in slide mode. Oops. Okay, thank you, and happy independence to all. I'm going to go through it quickly. I only have 5 minutes. So as the moderator indicated, it is a collection called the Peanut Tales. And the second one in the series is called Peanut's Family Tree. It was inspired, again, the moderator referred to our lectures. We have been doing it since 2016. And when I realized that the secondary schools were being targeted and not the infant and primary, I was prompted to write the story. The collection of stories always targets the under 12, which was a happy coincidence with what the lectures were doing or not doing, depending upon how you want to look at it. Peanut is a little character. She's 8 years old. She's a Caribbean girl. She's very nosy. She's always asking questions. And the reader, who are the young readers, the young children of our society, also encouraged to ask questions. So there's usually a tag in the story that says, if you want to know something, ask someone. So the plot line for Peanut's family tree is that Peanut and her 3 older brothers have an essay to write. They have different ages, so their essays will be different, but the information they require will all be the same. And they don't know much. So in the story, they turn to their grandparents where they discuss reparations and repatriations and the CARICOM 10. As indicated by previous speakers, these are heavy topics. These are heavy topics for adults. Can you imagine trying to explain it to your 8-year-old? So in the story, they do talk about the 10 points for the CARICOM reparation plan. And these are screen caps from the actual story. And they also talk about the ancestors, and not just the descendants of Africa, but the descendants of India and of First Nation peoples. So all that is we have tried to address that in the story. I view this as a long-term relay. And I've said this to the National Reparations Committee before. And you can see what I've identified as the various legs in the relay, with the anchor leg being our tiny tots. And if we don't engage them from now, all this hard work that we are doing, they will not be empowered to go across the finish line for us. So we must engage all levels of the society, all age groups. And I reached out to the National Reparations Committee when I wrote the story, and I offered it to them as an education tool for them to use. And just before I close, I want to inform everybody in the diaspora that National Reading Month takes place in St. Lucia in May. And normally I offer the Peanut Tales to the children for free. So if anybody wants to be on board, they can always email me. And that unusual email is because the Zatuberg is Peanut's imaginary friend. So I wanted to thank everyone for letting me speak, and hopefully I was within my 5 minutes, Mr. Moderator. And again, I end as I started. Happy Independence to everyone. Mr. Moderator, I hand over to you, and in the question section, I'll be available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, author Dawn French. We're going well with our time management, and our next presentations will come in the form of 3 promotions from the UWI Open Campus EDU, the people responsible for ensuring that all of you and all of us can see and hear each other and participate in today's activity. uwiopencampus.edu, the address is at the bottom of the invitation. These are the people who make it possible, and they have made every one of our 11 national and regional lectures possible. But we also want to look beyond just the people behind the screen. We want to look at the entire institution that they represent, and they have 3 flyers which demonstrate how you, the viewers, can make use of the UWI Overseas Open Campus programs. And this first one is bringing the classroom to where you are. And of course, this is starting in September 2021. And it tells you what it is all about. This is one of the 3 courses being offered. The second one is right here, and it invites you to gain your qualification in sport from home or work, and you can choose from 3 online programs: a BSc in sports coaching, a BSc in sport leadership and management, and a BSc in sport kinetics. And the third one is one which invites you to apply for a postgraduate certificate in leadership for sustainable development. And you can see on your screen again the details as to what this 1 year part-time program involves. And we invite you, all of you viewers at home and abroad, in the diaspora, and all St. Lucians, but not only St. Lucians. This reparations is for Caribbean people. The diaspora involves Caribbean people. And therefore, this is not just for St. Lucians, but for all Caribbean people. And therefore, all Caribbean people following right now do qualify. And therefore, we invite you to make use of this opportunity. We also have another flyer. That one is past, but certainly it is a flyer that indicates what our St. Lucia UWI Open Campus unit allies have been doing. It's called the Patricia Isman workshop, and they held one on February 11th, and that workshop has already taken place, but you can look forward by joining the UWI Open Campus St. Lucia's website for results, etc., that would be coming from that. So that being what we have done for now, we have some other slides, but we will take them during the second half of our question and answer period. And it is at this point that we begin to invite our representatives in the diaspora to join us. And in these situations, it is difficult to tell where to start, and it is always safest to start in alphabetical order. But in this particular situation, while everybody else will be going in alphabetical order of the name of country, you would like to start with the president of the Association of St. Lucians Overseas, whose name I don't have, but perhaps Ambassador Fletcher, you could help us identify.
He's Mr. Ross Cadas. He's the president of the St. Lucia Union of St. Lucia Overseas Associations.
Welcome, Mr. Ross Cadas. Over to Mr. Ross Cadas, the president of the Union of St. Lucia Overseas Associations.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bousquet, moderator. Let me take this opportunity, first of all, to wish all St. Lucians a happy 42, and to thank the organizers for the work that they're doing in this first event, or first of future events. As I sit and I listen, I must say that the diaspora's knowledge of reparations may not be as advanced as the folks on the call today. And I started to think of a few things, and I wanted to pose a question to the team on the call. How can the people in the diaspora, that's us, fit into the plan of reparations? What kind of support can we as Caribbean people around the world provide in order to help push this cause forward?
Okay, if I could respond very quickly, by doing what you've started doing today, participating in not only the discussions at home, but reparations is, as Ambassador Suma and Ambassador Isaac were pointing out, it is a global issue. It is not just a St. Lucian or Caribbean issue. As we speak right now, the US Congress is for the 30th year looking at the HR 40, which House of Representatives number 40, the bill introduced in 1980. And the number 40, not many people know, is because Black people way back, the African Americans were offered 40 acres on a mule, neither of which they received. But with Black Americans, African Americans having carried the Democratic Party and the Biden Harris team over the top in the last general elections. Had it not been for the January 6th events, January 20th and 21st would have seen two major reparations um, marches on Washington. That has been postponed, but the best way all St. Lucians in the United States, in North America, in Europe, in the Caribbean, wherever you are, join the reparations discussion, whether it is taking place where you are or whether you can follow it online, do either or both. And from the time you start, you're going to continue.
Thank you.
Unmute. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, so can we move on to, of course, each of you will have a chance to come back because questions will be coming in and moving on. So now from Mr. Kadas, we move to Ms. Cynthia Dahlia in Barbados, who is representing St. Lucians in Barbados. Welcome, Ms. Cynthia Dahlia.
Welcome. Unfortunately, it's not Cynthia Dahlia. She's unable to attend.
Okay.
So I'm sitting in for both Cynthia and Petra Poloin. My name is Lawrence Poloin, the husband of Petra Poloin. Okay, so I'm going to be very brief because I wasn't too sure what whether I was supposed to do a presentation. I thought that we were supposed to ask questions, but
you can
say the idea of
you can make your presentation a question.
Oh, and please tell them your wife's position on the association.
Okay, my wife Petra Poloin is the president of the St. Lucian Association in Barbados. I'm the husband. I'm working regionally. I'm a lecturer at the University of the West Indies. I'm assigned to the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology, which is a regional institution. So I both participate in delivering lectures at the university as well as the regional institution, which is a CARICOM institution. Okay, so the idea of reparations has been long overdue. And so in my little research and knowledge of reparations, I'm not a historian, I'm a physical scientist. What plagues the global Black community to me is division. It seems like the idea of reparations is the only global political narrative which is tending to unite us Black people among the globe. So one of the questions would be, what role will the diaspora play in achieving the objectives of the reparation ideas? And things like, will we consider economic inequality? Because when we look at the Caribbean, there are lots of imbalances in terms of the economies. So should we consider economic inequalities in order to achieve economic balance and inequality? And I also have a couple of questions that was posted before, so I hope that will be addressed later on. So thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Mr. Poloin. And I am answering some of your questions in the chat. But insofar as how the diaspora can participate, like I said to Mr. Kadas, your first step is to get involved, get to know more. Like you've admitted, until this evening, you have tended to be more of a Met person than a reparations person. But every journey starts with the first step, and everybody who's participating in this discussion for the first time is taking the first step on that lengthy journey that our ancestors undertook from the very first day that the first free African was captured and enslaved and started to wish and think and act um, towards regaining his or her and their freedom. Secondly, having engaged yourselves in knowing more about reparations, you need to, like I said, also look at where and how it applies to where you are. If it is an, an event or an issue that is of national import, participate, and don't think that because you were not born there, it doesn't apply to you. Reparations, as we are seeking, is for the Caribbean. It is for the 14 CARICOM countries that are seeking it, but on behalf of the entire Caribbean for slavery and native genocide. So it is not only for African descendants, as one of our earlier speakers pointed out, but also for the first people who were subjected to genocide from 1419 to, from 1492. So that's our invitation to you to um, get on board by getting to know more about reparations and ensuring that you play your part, not only individually, but at the level of your association of St. Lucians, being able to organize events that we can participate in from St. Lucia, just like you are participating today in our webinar. Organize your webinars. We will provide whatever support that we can. So let's move on to Mr. Aaron
Before you move
Francis.
on, moderator, may I
Yes,
also attempt
yes,
to answer the question
yes,
posed?
yes, Ambassador Suma.
Okay, first of all, the two questions had a were very similar in relation to what could the diaspora do. And having also served as the ambassador responsible for diaspora affairs, I can tell you that I have met many very influential St. Lucians in the diaspora. And their ability to lobby and advocate for an issue that transcends time, transcends race, and also helps to consolidate identity. I think that it is something in which they can participate more fully, not just by coming to our meetings, but also organizing their own and participating at the level of legislation within their countries. We have done it before, and in all of these countries where St. Lucians are located, we have a certain amount of influence, and we must start using that influence. To the issue of unity, we will never be on the same page. People see this issue very differently, very differently. Some people want us to forget about it. Some people want us to say, okay, it happened, let's move on. What's the next step? But people don't realize that unless you understand what has happened in your history, you are doomed to repeat the same mistakes. And so I would like us, even if it's 10 people who are fighting for reparations, remember that there were single people during enslavement who asked for reparations. Reparations was not something that started after emancipation. We started before. From the time we were enslaved, we were asking for better conditions. All of that was part of repairing the situation that we were in. We did it in many different ways, and we have to understand that this is not a movement. As I said in my lecture when I did it for the inaugural lecture, that this is not a ragtime movement. This is a movement that has had very solid information. The fact that there has not been success in people's eyes, They tell us, okay, why do you continue to fight? So you will continue to accept the indignity and the inhumanity and allow those people who were involved in human trafficking and who have benefited from human trafficking and built their societies to continue to look down upon us. I think that it is time that we make a firm stance. I saw in the questions whether the Caribbean regional governments were in consensus about this. I can tell you that, yes, there might be some people who think that we need to approach it differently, but there is a consensus that we must pursue reparations. And not just at the level of CARICOM, but in the wider Caribbean. Having served as Secretary General of the ACS, I can tell you that it was in our declaration every time we had a ministerial meeting that we must pursue reparations on behalf of everybody around the Caribbean Sea, because this has kept us in underdevelopment, and we need to look at sustainable development from slavery to now. So I thank the two presenters, the two members of the diaspora, for the questions.
Thank you, Ambassador Dr. Sumah, for your responses. And we go over, in fact, Ambassador Sumah is in the British Virgin Islands, and right there in the British Virgin Islands as well is Mr. Aaron Francis, who is going to speak to us about St. Lucians in the British Virgin Islands and their appreciation of the reparations struggle. And of course, we will recall Ambassador Sumah indicating earlier the situation insofar as the demands made to the Danes and the possibilities of the Danes, of the British Virgin Islanders becoming Danish citizens. That is not something that we will have been reading and hearing about across the OECS and the CARICOM region, but as was pointed out by Dr. Hilary Beckles, who is the Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies and the chair of the CARICOM Reparations Commission, the second phase of independence has to include the independence of those remaining colonies by whatever names they are called, dependencies, overseas territories, departments of overseas, whatever they're being called, the British Virgin Islands, the US Virgin Islands, the French and Dutch Antilles, they all fall within the sphere of those entities that have to be regarded as the next phase of independence for the Caribbean, because like Ambassador Sumah and others have said earlier, we cannot have reparations until we are all free, and reparations is for all of us. So how will it go to those of us who are not yet free if and when it comes before we are all free? So over to Mr. Aaron Francis, British Virgin Islands. Welcome. Is Mr. Francis with us? Can you acknowledge Mr. Francis? In which case, if he is having technical problems, we will go over to French Guiana to Mr. Sonny William. Monsieur William Sonny, est-ce là avec nous? Okay, normally we do have some problems with connections. I'm sure that somebody will be in touch with somebody who is going to inform Mr. Aaron Francis and Mr. Sonny William that we have been trying to get to them. Who is it?
Ambassador, yes? Mr. William just called me And he said, I know he's on, he's watching. I think he may be, like you say, having technical difficulties. He's on. You can see him in on the chat. Did he
But
come
we
in?
could get back to him.
Both of
David
them.
and the others will try to solve his problem, as they always do, as well as, do you know whether Mr. Aaron Francis is with us? In which case we move on to Mrs. Felicia Hippolyte. I know she is with us in the United Kingdom, where it is 5 hours ahead. Welcome, Mrs. Felicia Hippolyte. Bonjour, bienvenue.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. May I take this opportunity to wish every St. Lucian a happy 42nd independence. I think reparation is long overdue as a result of the greatest injustices perpetrated against humanity, with the legacy still being felt or experienced by our people through global structures and institutions in place at various levels in the fabric of our society. This includes social, economic, educational, law, and other institutions impacting us generally. My question relating to reparation, well, I've got two questions actually. One, what is the economic model for reparation on a regional, i.e. CARICOM level, and will it differ from a national level? If the model is yet to be created, what key considerations are being taken into account? Two, what plans are underway for collaborative working with others to arrive at a reparation package in coming into grips with past atrocities?
Okay.
Sorry, these are my two questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Felicia Hippolyte. I'm glad to offer a response, and of course, any of our presenters who wish to so do can also do so. In response to your first question, what economic model for the regional reparations and how will it differ from national? Well, from day one, it was made clear way back in 2013, when the CARICOM 10-point plan was presented, that, like I said, this is for everybody. And what it means, first of all, is that a case has to be made by CARICOM for reparations. We can easily say we have a case, as we do, and we know we do, but we are seeking reparations by way of money, value, atonement, and compensation by way of reparations. And therefore, we are being suffered the indignity of having to make a case for what is ours. But that is always what it is when people seek social justice based on historical factors. So there is one case that has to be made by CARICOM, and that case would say we, as an entity representing 14 countries that were dominated, in the case of CARICOM, by Britain, and in the case of Suriname, by the Netherlands, then called Holland. And in order to make that case, however, and this is the difficult part, every country, every one of the 14 CARICOM nations has to make a case. So St. Lucia has to make its case. Dominica has to make its case. Jamaica, Guyana, Barbados, Trinidad, St. Vincent, Grenada, St. Kitts Nevis, Suriname, Belize, Bahamas. Everybody has to make a case. In the case of St. Lucia, we have to make two cases because we were enslaved. Slavery was managed in St. Lucia by both the British and the French. So we have two cases to make. I must confess that CARICOM is not satisfied, and we at the National Preparatory Committee level are also not satisfied that the case cases are being made at the national level with the urgency that is required. These cases cannot be made by a private lawyer. They cannot be made by the National Preparatory Committee, even though it is a government-appointed committee. It has to be made by the government, by government lawyers, as part of the government of St. Lucia and every other government's case to be presented to the European Union, not to Britain, but to the European Union, so that all those countries that benefited from slavery would be part of the discussion. Secondly, what are the plans for collaboration? The CARICOM Reparations Commission comprises one commissioner who is normally the chair of the National Reparations Committee, each of whom is a commissioner on the CARICOM Reparations Commission, which meets on a regular basis to discuss where things are at, not only in taking the reparations message at home nationally, but the extent to which the government of each territory is doing what needs to be done by way of making that case. And we are still at the stage where we have not yet been able to influence the sort of mechanism, for example, that would activate our Attorney General's department, our Department of the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Ministry of Legal Affairs, and the various departments of law in government have to be in as part of this. And it is our intent as a committee during 2021, during the first half of this year, to approach and engage those entities, because that case has to be presented, and St. Lucia is one of the countries that is unfortunately behind, despite the fact that we have to make two cases. I don't know whether any other presenter would like to add to this. In which case, we can move on to Mr. Cornelius Alfred in Atlanta, Georgia, one of two representatives in the United States. So let's go to Mr. Cornelius Alfred. Is he here with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Go ahead.
First of all, let me just extend 42nd anniversary independence to all St. Lucians and to St. Lucia as well. You know, I'd just like to say that, you know, I'm very happy to be involved in such a forum today. Although I have a lot of questions when it comes to reparations, what comes to mind is, you know, compensation, not only in the form of money, but apologies, etc. From the conversation, I've gathered two things. We have a National Reparations Committee, and we also have the CARICOM reparations. And what I'm going to ask, maybe you've touched a lot of what I want to ask. But however, I'm seeing there is kind of not confusion, not division, but the alignment of the two. And how can we make it work? Because if nationally, each country is supposed to present their case, but yet still you have CARICOM, which has a 10-point plan, okay? So if that CARICOM plan differs from the national plan, how can we, you know, approach the reparation as one people, knowing that we are part of CARICOM, but yet still, we still have to individually, you know, do our own, not do, but
make our own case.
Make our own case, yes.
Okay. Any other question?
And also, you know, each island to me would have different, when it comes to reparation, they would have different categories. For example, Haiti may be seeking financial compensation because of the monies they've paid. But St. Lucia, we may be looking for maybe just an apology, you know. So in that case, how can we align everything nationally and with CARICOM?
Okay, I'm glad to answer these very important questions. First of all, we are seeking um, atonement by way of economic reparations preceded by an apology. The reason why we want economic reparations is because, as with everything else, as with Sir Arthur coming before his time, writing up the Manifesto for Reparations 82 years ago, and we're only now beginning to realize what he did long after he's gone. The call for reparations by CARICOM was initiated in 2013 as a result of an intervention by Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves of St. Vincent, supported by then Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Dr. Kenny Anthony, and the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Denzil Douglas. And they were able to convince CARICOM to move on. Now, what we have is a situation not of the cart before the horse, but for once in our history, CARICOM leaders have taken a decision, not for once, but this is another indication where CARICOM leaders have taken a decision on behalf of the CARICOM people that is absolutely important to have been taken, and which probably would not have been taken by virtue of the delays if there had to be a sort of a regional referendum on whether to go ahead on reparations. So having taken that decision, having identified the 10-point plan, the 10-point plan is what we are seeking from from Britain. And I will be going through that in a while for you and others. But if David would just put it up for me, if he can, the matrix of the 10-point plan, it looks at 10 areas in which we are saying these are the things we would like to come out of reparations. And if we receive what we are asking for, which a figure has been put to now as 500 billion with a capital B, 500 billion US dollars worth of reparations to be distributed across the region on the basis of the formula that was promoted by Sir Arthur Lewis in his book entitled Labor in the West Indies, published in 1939. It is available on Amazon. And in there, once you read that, you will be able to understand why 82 years later, the CARICOM heads of government on the 1st of August 2020 announced that they had adopted wholesale the manifesto, which was also described as the intellectual blueprint for reparations, and Sir Arthur as the intellectual author of the blueprint for CARICOM reparations that is aimed at how we are going to distribute the returns on the basis of the 10-point plan. And like I said, I will come back to the 10-point plan, but by virtue of your second question, the NRC and the CRC are on one page because the CRC is a commission comprising commissioners representing the 14 CARICOM countries. And here is the 10-point plan. I'll go through it briefly. The 10 things we are demanding from Europe. 1, a full and formal apology. That needs no explanation. 2, repatriation. We want to be able to know that the issue of repatriation must always be open to the extent that any African descendants who want to go back to the motherland should be able to do so with the least entry restrictions as possible. 3, Indigenous Peoples Development Program, a program for the development of our indigenous people, the people we learned at school as being Caribs and Arawaks, but we never heard about the Garifunas, about the Mandingos, about the Maroons, these indigenous people, they preceded slavery, and the genocide that was practiced against them was so effective that they were reduced from millions to tens of thousands to mere thousands over less than a century. So we need an indigenous peoples development program. Our cultural institutions, we need libraries that will be able to show our connection to our African history. In every one of these territories have remnants and replicas of our slave past. Sometimes we pass them all day long and we have no idea that is what they were. We need to have those cultural institutions, museums, etc., that will allow us to be able to look inwards, look at home and see what we have. Number 5, a public health crisis. The COVID crisis underlines, and remember this 10-point plan was done in 2013, but public health crisis, we need as a region to work together. And the COVID crisis has reiterated that until CARICOM works together as a unit to secure enough vaccines for the entire region, as long as they go one by one, we will continue to delay the presence of COVID in the Caribbean. Number 6, illiteracy eradication. In 2021, the age of the internet, we still have many, and therefore too many people in the Caribbean, in St. Lucia, and in every CARICOM member state who are still illiterate. And in St. Lucia, this is underlined also by the fact that we are bilingual, and apart from having people who are still illiterate in English, Creole literacy is still a national problem. Number 7, African Knowledge Program. In our history, like we are doing in the lectures that we do monthly, we need to be able to recreate our links with Africa, to know from whence we cometh, so that we can know where we are heading. So knowledge of our African history, which is not being taught at school sufficiently, has to be researched and promoted by us. Number 8, psychological rehabilitation. We still feel and suffer from inferiority complex. We still have Black people, non-white people in the Caribbean and in the diaspora dyeing their skin, changing their color, arranging the texture of the hair, feeling inferior because of who they are, how they look. And this is not something that is new. Today is the 55th anniversary to the day when Malcolm X was assassinated in the United States, 55 years ago today. But in his autobiography, Malcolm X points out that he lived all of his life. He died at age 39, but he lived his entire life regretting that his mother was half white, and he felt ashamed up until his death for having had white blood within him. That is how much he felt. Now, whether you want to call it an inferiority complex or a superiority complex, at the end of the day, we still have, particularly in the diaspora, where you have interracial marriages and interracial communities being built. We have to be able to overcome the psychological weaknesses that we keep on our own because of how we look. Number 9, technology transfer. During slavery in the British West Indies, it was stipulated by law that nothing must be produced or manufactured in the islands, not even a screw. The role of these islands was to produce the sugar and the raw materials for Britain. There would have been no technology, no manufacturing. So while UK enjoyed the Industrial Revolution coming out of slavery, we were deprived by law from any technology transfer. And for developing countries, including the CARICOM, St. Lucia and the wider Caribbean community, for us to catch up with those who enslaved our ancestors, for us to catch up with the heirs and successors of those who are responsible for our state today. We have to have that technology transfer. And as Ambassador Suma pointed out, we have St. Lucians and Caribbean people everywhere in the world who are influential and can help us achieve the things that we need. And finally, debt cancellation. We cannot move forward every 10 years, every 5 years, something happens globally to indicate to us why we cannot move forward on our own. We cannot beat climate change on our own. We cannot beat COVID on our own. And we cannot move forward. Haiti cannot move forward without the cancellation or the return of the cost it paid for its reparations. And we in St. Lucia and all other CARICOM countries cannot move forward with the level that we would like to do, with the level of debts that we have. So these 10 points brought to you, I must say that they were put together in one package by Dawn French. We have to thank her. She went to the CARICOM Reparations Commission website, saw the way it was presented, and thought she would make this wonderful gift to us, which we are prepared to make available to each and every one of your entities abroad in the diaspora to help promote the CARICOM 10-point plan. So there are no differences in objectives, my friend Cornelius, and one can only hope that you and all others will make use of this to take us to our next stage. Okay? And we'll move on to our next presenter from Canada, Miss Ohana Obaiza Momwan.
Before you go on to Ioana, Earl, let me let you know that Aaron is on now.
Ah, Aaron is there. Okay, let's go to Aaron first. He was already there, and we'll ask the other lady to stand by. Mr. Aaron Francis, British Virgin Islands, welcome. Unmute your mic, please. Aaron?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. And happy independence to us, I will say. Reparations is a passionate issue, and I'm feeling that this will never go away until we are satisfied in one way or form. In the British Virgin Islands, that subject is ongoing at the moment, and a previous governor said that paying reparations to victims of slavery is not a position that the United Kingdom has taken. Right? The UK has not taken a position on reparations. With regards to reparation, my question is, how much are we seeking? Is there a figure to it? And if it's not monetary, what are we seeking with regards to reparation?
Okay.
The third question is, do we have a case, or have we built a case for reparations to present? Where are we now with regards to that?
Okay, I'll quickly go through that because we have answered both of the questions when we were trying to get you the figure. We have finally arrived at the figure. It was announced on the 1st of August, Emancipation Day 2020. CARICOM is seeking the equivalent of $500 billion US worth of reparations, not necessarily in cash, but more in kind through a regional economic package to be patterned on that recommended by Sir Arthur Lewis in his manifesto for reparations, contained in his book entitled Labor in the West Indies published in 1939, which is available on Amazon, in which he points out how we should be going about, what we should be asking for, why we should be asking for it, and how we will go in, what we are going to be doing with it. So read that book, and it is going to help answer a lot of those questions. I also raised the question of the case. Yes, we all have to make a case. We have to make two cases or one case in different parts. So we may have to make one CARICOM case to be presented to the European Union, because the European countries that benefited from slavery is not only the UK or France or Spain. There are at least 13 European Union countries. It also includes non-European Union countries like Russia that also had interest in slavery and benefited from slavery in the Caribbean. That general case has to be made to the European Union, but within that general case, we have to have every country making its own case. St. Lucia making its two cases for slavery under France and Britain, and all the others that were enslaved by Britain making their cases for that. In the case of Suriname, making a case for and against the Netherlands. And this is where the likes of the OECS Commission, to which the British Virgin Islands and other non-independent territories belong, has also been showing interest in reparations throughout 2020. And we would hope that in 2021, the OECS Commission, which also represents the British Virgin Islands, the French Antilles, and others, as well as Bermuda, will be able to find a formula to put reparations on the table. What the governor said to you was right, not that Britain has not taken a position. Britain has taken a position. In 2015, the then Prime Minister of Britain, David Cameron, went to Jamaica and said Britain is not paying. He's one of those who said it's been too long, too far away, but lo and behold, in that same year, 2015, was the year when the final bit of money was paid to the slave owners for the abolition of slavery. So while he was saying, let's forget it, the likes of his great-grandfathers who had 500 slaves in Jamaica, his family was still collecting dues for the sale of those slaves. So we are doing it together. Britain is against it, but as you know, in every country, what matters is what the people think, but what the people think and where they stand is not always reflected in government policy. And as long as we have governments in Britain that are against reparations, then we will not see Britain agreeing to reparations. But in the post-George Floyd situation, Britain has had to face quite a lot. The churches in Britain, all of the institutions of higher learning, the universities, they have all been exposed. And with Britain approaching the 200th anniversary of the abolition of slavery in 2024, look out for Britain starting to sing the reparations song, except that it will be singing it in English and not in any of our Caribbean or African languages. So let's move on.
Well, our French have finally gotten, we are in the back of the scenes, they're working with them. All of the French are listening, and Sonny is on now.
Okay, so we now move to Mr. William Sonny. That is how it is pronounced in English, but it is Sonny William. Bonjour, bienvenue. Monsieur Sonny, ou ka pale ban nou sorti kayen, ban nou nouvel sorti kayen. Bien pale ban nou.
Eh bien, moi ka di bonjour, et puis bonne fête indépendant pour tout Saint-Lucien qui est à Saint-Lucie, et puis tous ces diasporas. Tout spécialement moun qui est la Guyane française. Donc, vous savez, nous ne pouvons pas parler anglais aujourd'hui parce qu'il y a chaque monde nous mettait au courant aujourd'hui à dire sa belle belle initiative ça que Madame Fletcher et puis le gouvernement s'est mis en place. Ah, ça belle. ça joli, tout bon. Non. Et puis, ça m'a dit, c'est que ça c'est un bel bagage, ça très belle. Et mon y a chaque monde ou tout moins toute la Guyane qui a coûté et Saint-Lucie aujourd'hui. Et puis, moi, fait bel bonjour pour tous les autres Saint-Luciens, les présidents des autres associations qui ont lancé les autres pays. Coucou, bonne fête indépendante. Mais l'année qui a interpellé nous en Chai, de toute façon, nous savons que Saint-Lucie, c'est en bas anglais et français. Et aujourd'hui, nous toujours senti que après toute sa misère qui fait, nous avons fait indépendant nous quand même. Mais moi, quand je remarque qu'on dit que l'anglais et français n'a pas content qu'on soit indépendant. Parce que nous toujours eu 3 cas et problèmes dans chaque côté de l'administration. OK? Donc, moi, nous parler de salaire que peut-être Angleterre, pas tomber d'accord tout le temps sur nos réparations. Mais il y a un droit. Il y a un droit à réparer certaines choses. L'Angleterre et la France. Parce que si nous prenons from time, nous regardons au niveau de l'esclavage, nous pas jamais nous pas demandé personne pour être esclave. Hein. Ils sont obligés de nous faire ça, nous faire aujourd'hui. OK? Et aujourd'hui, nous commandons réparation pour beaucoup de choses. Et c'est un combat. Et moi, big up tout le monde qui a gommé pour sa réparation. Ça. Parce que moi, je trouve que ça inadmissible que aujourd'hui, Saint-Lucie, nous, Saint-Luciens, nous n'avons problème pour travel côté français, nous n'avons problème pour travel côté en anglais. Moi, je feel si c'est mon certificat pour history into consideration pour vous savoir qui ça y a fait, et pour aujourd'hui, il n'y a still pas libéré dans beaucoup de bagailles. Moi, je dis, c'est pas normal. C'est pas normal. OK? Et puis, bravo pour Madame Fletcher, nous ambassade, qui vient à Cayenne et il allait tout partout en Latin à côté qui est Saint-Lucien. Et puis, nous tous avons le même combat. Right? Et c'est un combat, pour moi, il pas ni la fin. Parce que nous ne pouvons pas arriver à trouver vraiment ça nous besoin. OK? Parce que aujourd'hui, Saint-Lucien qui est en Guyane, qui travaille tellement bien en pays, et puis nous style les problèmes. Nous avons avec gouvernement nous pas ni pardon. OK? Nous sommes étrangers, nous estimons nous comme étrangers. Mais tout en sachant que nous, cette lycée en Guyane, depuis 1832, et puis on dit qu'on n'y est pas fait. Parce que Français n'a pas qu'à reconnaître certains bagailles et nous, cette lycée fait. Là, nous montons l'Angleterre, pareil. Chaque Saint-Lucien, l'Angleterre, chaque Saint-Lucien monte l'Angleterre pour étudier, chaque est réussi, chaque qui pas réussi. Mais yet still, nous toujours des problèmes avec sa réparation, ça qui n'a pas jamais vu mettre le white flag là-haut. Alors, le combat a continué et nous avons dit aussi, Madame Fletcher, continuez à le combat qu'on mener et nous-mêmes aussi, nous avons toujours gommé pour garder si quand même nous faisons une réparation et pour faciliter la vie nous et the future generation.
Merci, Anshai, Mr. Sonny William. And of course, as he pointed out, the St. Lucians have been in Cayenne since 1832. And not much is known about the contribution of St. Lucia to the development of French Guiana, because St. Lucians, we still refer to the territory called French Guiana, which is located on the northeastern shoulder of South America, next to Guyana and Suriname, part of the 3 Guyanas, but we still call the entire territory Cayenne. And Cayenne is the capital, but we call the entire country territory Cayenne because St. Lucians left to go to Cayenne to dig for gold. Many, unfortunately, never returned. But in Cayenne today, as we speak, Sonny William and anybody who knows Cayenne properly will tell you that St. Lucians are in control. Every mayor and every head of a national institution in Cayenne who was not born in France has St. Lucian parentage or is descendant of St. Lucian. Every mayor of Cayenne for the past 20 years, bar very few, have had St. Lucian parentage. However, as he has indicated, St. Lucians are not having it nice in Cayenne. To come, there is still up until today in 2021, thanks to the refusal of the French government, St. Lucians in Cayenne cannot take a direct flight to St. Lucia. And when they fly to Martinique, they have to overnight. You cannot get a direct flight to St. Lucia from Cayenne, even if you hire a plane. These are some of the issues that William has been pointing out, and these issues, as he correctly pointed out as well, will remain so because the British, the French, and the others who sort of granted independence on a platter did so because in the same way that in 1834 the British got into getting rid of slavery and entering into emancipation because they recognized that following the Haitian Revolution, that signaled the end of slavery. So they took in front. Similarly, independence granted to the Caribbean territories was not because the European countries wanted us to be free and independent. Look at our constitutions across the Caribbean. The British ensured in St. Lucia and all of the others that we have, in order to change the constitution, you need a 2/3 majority in a referendum. And that is impossible in any country in today's, particularly today, when choices, people are becoming stronger in their choices. So they gave us the independence, I say capital G-A-V-E, because we didn't fight, we didn't lose any lives for our independence, we didn't struggle in the way that others fought independence wars. And while this is fortunate, we also have to understand that it doesn't mean that because we got independence without a fight, that we should not fight for what we should have got, which is the respect that comes with being independent nations that are free. As long as we still belong to the Commonwealth, and as long as Her Majesty the Queen continues to be on our dollar bill, and as long as our meetings of Parliament have to start with paying allegiance to Her Majesty the Queen, our independence is still missing a little something. But we're running ahead of time. I would like us, if possible right now, to go to Miss Uhana Obaiza Mama One in Canada.
Good day, everyone. I'm Johanna Obaiza-Moan. I would like to first of all say happy 42nd Independence to all St. Lucians. And if I could expatiate on what my good friend, Mr. Ross Kadas asked, is there future plans of reparation awareness for the diaspora? Also, is there going to be a committee put together where the diaspora could actively assist in the venture? Also, I have two other questions. I just want to be brief. What policies are being considered for the reparation, and what are the arguments supporting or opposing this venture? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Brief questions. The very interesting questions, and of course, other presenters can add to that. The idea of a diaspora committee is a new one at the level of the CARICOM Reparations Commission. We have been giving thought to how we could bring the diaspora in, and Ambassador Fletcher's initiative came right on cue because it provided us with the opportunity to start the ball rolling. And we have to thank her for the participation that we have seen so far. It can happen this way. You already have Mr. Kadas representing the Union of Associations. My suggestion would be that every national association of St. Lucians in the diaspora can set up a committee or an entity that looks at your participation from where you are in the national reparations debate at home, in the region, and globally. And on that basis, when sufficient committees have been established, or even before that, as a driving force, you can establish on your union, have a special committee or a special person responsible for coordinating the establishment of those national reparations subcommittees in the various committees in the diaspora. It is not for us to tell you how to do it. These are just suggestions on how you may want to look at it. Secondly, those who oppose are running out of arguments. Basically, the main argument they used to have was that this has taken too long. It's such a long time ago. Well, as Malcolm X said before he was killed, he said, in effect, that our parents are not there. Your parents are not there. He was speaking to the sons and daughters of the oppressors who oppose reparations. And he's saying, listen, normally when you inherit an estate after your parents die, you have to pay the debts incurred by that estate before the death of the owner. And therefore, while our parents are not there to pay the reparations, and your parents are not there while our parents are not there to collect and your parents are not there to pay, the thing is, we are there to collect for our parents and you are there to pay for your parents. And this is what we are saying to Europe. It's never too late to correct history and to pay for outstanding debts, which another book which we would strongly recommend is Britain's Black Debt by Sir Hilary Beckles, the Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies and the chair of the CARICOM Reparations Commission, which puts the whole context of Britain's Black Debt to its former British West Indies colonies is put together. So we've come to the closing point, so we have to start closing down. I don't think we have missed anybody else. So I'd like to thank all of our presenters.
All you have left out Sean
Mr.
and Kevin.
Sean Anthony and Kevin Williams.
But Kevin is not there. He had an emergency. He had to run off.
Okay, Sean Anthony. Sean
is not there. Kevin is there.
Oh, Kevin is there. Kevin,
yes.
J.B. Williams in Canada. Sorry, you're our last presenter.
This is our honorable ex-minister's son.
Ah, okay. Go ahead, Kevin.
Greetings, everyone. I just want to wish everyone a happy 42nd independence to all St. Lucians at home and abroad. I also want to thank the organizers of this event. This has been quite insightful and enjoyable, actually. And in thinking of the themes being discussed and debated, my question is, what are the challenges of states like St. Lucia receiving foreign aid and also in the pursuit of reparations? I didn't look up how much foreign aid we receive from Europe or if this is still a thing, but is Europe adopting the position that foreign aid encompasses the goals of reparation and thus refusing uptake of the issue? And finally, what are some of the strategies that have been used or are in development to combat this challenge?
Okay, very quickly, in the interest of time, all of those who owe us and have expressed unwillingness to pay have used that same argument that they have given us foreign aid over the period of time. Germany is saying the same to Namibia. Italy has saying the same to others, and therefore we do not accept that. We do have other countries, Ambassador Suma will let you know that there are countries within the wider CARICOM community, from Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua, Bolivia, again, and others who in their summits, whether at the ALBA level, at the level of the central, the CELAC, the Caribbean and Latin American economic community, at these various regional levels, you have pledges of support for reparations, not necessarily financial support, but if somebody is willing, or if a country is willing to support us in our reparations cause, then that support can come in many different ways, and that can be tabulated as foreign assistance. The strategies are all contained in the 10-point plan. We would also recommend that you read Sir Arthur Lewis's book, Labor in the West Indies, 1939. It is on Amazon. We recommend that you also read Britain's Black Debt by Sir Hilary Beckles. It is also on Amazon. And in this age of the internet, there is so much that you can get by just visiting the website of the CARICOM Reparations Commission in Guyana, and of course the St. Lucia National Reparations Commission website will be updated. We have all of your addresses and we will make all of them available to all of you. So in the interest of time, we have to move on. Thank you very much, Mr. Kevin Williams. And happy Independence Day to everyone. In order, our last three presentations today, we are going to have, first of all, we'd like our technical team to line up the video by the late Her Excellency Dame Sesen Descartes. It's called Mamaila Diwai. And following that, we are going to be joined by Mr. Morgan Dalfini, the St. Lucian historian, researcher, and poet in London, who addressed our last National Reparations lecture on Thursday evening and delivered a poem to us that we would like to share with you. And we would ask Dr. Dalfini to stand by with the poem with which we are going to close today. So if the technical team is ready, Mamaila Diwai.
Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire, Mrs. Marie Selifa Sesen Descartes, SLMM BEM. Mamaila Diwai, Diwai encore, ça toujours, nous ça bien va moins, Mamaila Diwai. Yo time yo palais, yo moi panele, manele pio, wadlo jabat mama, wadlo jabat papa, wadlo jiyema, ça c'est kana sauvage, Mamaila Diwai, Diwai encore, tout ça toujours, wadlo jiyema, ça c'est kana sauvage. Mamaila Diwai, quoi encore, ça va moins, ça vient va moins. Les entendre yo va bien, c'est pas moins au palais. Moi donc j'y bien marin, moi parle les pions, moi parle les pions. Moi donc on a sauvé, moi donc j'abatte maman, moi donc j'abatte papa. Mamaila Diwai, quoi encore, tout ça toujours. Les entendre yo va bien, c'est pas moi au palais. Quoi de l'eau j'abatte maman, quoi de l'eau qu'on a sauvé, ça c'est du vieux marin. Mamaila Diwai, Mamaila Diwai, tout ça encore, Mamaila Diwai.
I'm assuming I continue.
Yes, sorry, I was not muted. Dr. Dalfini, like I said, Dr. Dalfini presented on Thursday evening, and he drew to our attention something. When I said earlier, there are things we see and we hear every day, and we don't really appreciate what they are. And we love that song. And when we hear about Wadlo Bat Mamai, Wadlo Bat Papai, we think it's referring to a person, and Dr. Dalfini was able to point out to us Wadlo is the Wadlo, the king of the water. Back in those days when the countries that ruled the waves were the ones who were in charge, and the ones who ruled the waves in St. Lucia, the representatives, beat their mothers, beat their fathers, and beat us. And they are the Wadlo. But let's go to close our session today. Dr. Morgan Dalfini, historian, and we have a copy of the cover of his book, which we will display while he is delivering his poem. Dr. Dalfini, the floor is yours.
Merci à peu. Namaste, salam alaikum, sakafet. Bon 42e anniversaire indépendance. I will be reading from a poem called Inspiration, and it starts in English, then it goes into our language, Creole, and because of time, I'm just saying to you that the Creole part is basically asking for inspiration for us to continue this struggle for independence, including reparations. Inspiration. The heavens ache, all the songs that might have been, lightning blue with thunder's cry, blue to touch, blue plunder of the earth, but they were not sung. The blue did not touch. Heartache of colonial slavery, voices held in prison, prisoners holding in an ache. The cry is all around, and you cannot escape to blue clouds, to calm seas, to deep philosophy, here where philosophy is action. Mwen te pe pale, men yo chwe bois mwen te vle vole, men yo coupe ziel mwen, lang mwen ka bat, selman bat, kon la coutume, kon che mwen, Kita voix kay viwe, gibier blé espoir, ciel blé la paix, sans tonnerre, sans éclair, mais épisier clair. Déviwe un jour, si bel pays espoir. Déviwe un jour, belle voix, déchaînez-moi. Libérez tête moi, quittez moi savant corps, dit fait kachil, quittez moi savant corps, kachil les action, ensemble, blé tonnerre, blé plaisir, inspiration. Merci à pile, ek, nous kay continuer, yon manière belot, et puis tête nous lever qu'à essayer chebe liberté.
Thank you to Dr. Dalfini and Ambassador Fletcher. You would want to check your email as we speak. And of course, folks, this is where we come to the end of today's session. We have one more activity, which is the usual protocol. We normally say protocol having been established, but not when it comes to the vote of thanks and saying thanks to everybody who has made things possible. So we now go to Ambassador Fletcher, who will deliver our vote of thanks. Ambassador Fletcher. Is she there? Could we bring in Ambassador Fletcher?
Yes, you hear me. Can you hear me now?
Okay, yes, we can hear you, yes.
Okay, right. I would like to take this opportunity to thank everybody who is here today, who made this possible. All of you on YouTube, on Facebook, on UE site, on the Zoom, here, I want to take this opportunity to thank you. Following such enlightening presentations and discussions on a topic of vital interest to St. Lucia at home and abroad, we wish to sincerely thank all of you who helped make today a success. Let us start with the diaspora. And you know, I am extremely grateful to you for responding so readily when I sent out the call for this invitation to participate. For those of you who came on to ask questions, from those of you all around the world, this is not about them and us, it's still about us and not them. After all, we are all St. Lucians and Caribbean people at home and abroad. We are sure it has been helpful to everyone who participated, and we look forward to this event continuing beyond this year's Independence Reflections. I first want to thank our presenters and questioners from the diaspora. Well, our presenters here and the questioners from the diaspora, our 10 questioners, especially President of the St. Lucia Unity UK and the USLOA, those as our French representatives, in fact, everybody, especially our young people from the diaspora who came out and who brought their whole crowd to listen in. I know that there's so many of you. Thank you for being all around the world to join in to listen. We also want to thank everyone who has made tonight possible and today possible. Our presenters, Dame Paulette Louise, Monsignor Dr. Patrick Anthony, Ambassador Dr. June Suma, Ambassador Dr. Elma Jean Isaac, and the chair of the National Reparations Committee, our moderator, Earl. Thank you so much. As per usual, we want to thank the technical team at UE. We wouldn't open campus marketing. We would not leave you out. Cherie, David, Patrick, and Richard, without whom we would not have had or heard anything. Thank you so much. Team UE Open Campus. Mr. Cleveland Sam, Mr. CJ, well, I hope I pronounce this properly. If I don't, forgive me, Bonadi, Mr. David Foster, Mr. David Mark, Mr. Patrick Johnson, and Ms. Cherie Glasgow. Again, thank you all so much. And I look forward to working with you guys again as we press this. We also want to thank Dawn French for her peanut presentation and Dr. Morgan Delphinis, her Black and our beloved and immortal Cessan Descartes, whose videos we use. We give special thanks to Monsignor Patrick Anthony for his unique St. Lucian presentation. And finally, most of all, we want to thank all of you who contributed to this session by your very presence, having taken time off to spend the last 2 hours, hopefully better understanding issues that might have clouded our minds until now. I thank you, viewers, listeners, callers, questioners, everyone, wherever you are, who's been with us tonight. And I also invite you at the end of this historic session to join us again for our 5th Virtual Schools History and Reparations Lecture this coming Thursday, 25th February, from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. When the topic will be in observance of Caribbean independence movements and Black History Month. The topic for next Thursday's Regional Schools Lecture, which will also be broadcast by and through the same UE Open Campus feedback, Facebook and YouTube channels, as this evening will be the unwritten history of Black Caribbean icons. And finally, from me to you, it was a distinct pleasure, and as always, to help make it happen. Thanks for appreciating, and thank you. Happy 42nd Independence anniversary to all of you and my special diaspora. I love you. Thank you for supporting me as usual. Thank you, UE, and thank you, NRC.
And thank you, Ambassador Fletcher. And this is where we say goodbye to all of you and to all of the 57,000 St. Lucians in the diaspora, no matter where you are, on behalf of the National Reparations Committee, the CARICOM Reparations Commission, all of our presenters and participants. I'm Earl Bousquet saying, until next time, happy Independence Day and keep the struggle. The struggle.